Hey there, my friends. So today we are talking all about how to build bigger, more well-defined, if you want to say toned, we'll say toned arms. So yes, we are here to give you 2 tickets to the gun show. Now I'm going to show you how to build those set of arms that you've really wanted. So whether you're a dude, you want that t-shirt busting arms look. You want to be strutting down the street, the beach, wherever, with biceps bulging, triceps coming out of those t-shirts and busting through those seams. Whether you're a female and you just want to look that sleek, toned, more sculpted, more shapely arms that you kind of really want. So whatever you want to call it, whatever descriptive word you want to use, cool, let's use it. Now, previously, I would have said, yeah, fucking hell, tone doesn't mean anything, which it doesn't. But I understand that people have their own terminology, which they want to use, which is fine by me. But what we really mean is you want to build some muscle in those arms and you want to drop some body fat so that that muscle shows. So whatever you want to call that, toned, sculpted, shaped, whatever, we're building some muscle and we're dropping some body fat to make it show. Cool. Now, there are 2 elements to building a badass set of arms. If you want badass triceps, if you want badass biceps, then there's a 2-step process that you have to follow, which I'm going to take you through right now. Step 1 is all about training. So without any training stimulus, you cannot build any muscle. You can't just sit on the couch watching Netflix and expect to grow arms just because you're drinking protein shakes. Doesn't fucking happen that way. You need a training stimulus, and this goes for any muscle, biceps, triceps, chest, legs, glutes, whatever. You need a training stimulus in order for them to grow. Doesn't matter how many protein shakes you have, no matter how many protein bars you have. If you are not training, you are not growing. Quote me on that. Now, so without that training stimulus, we don't move. Now, you can therefore start to set up your training to focus on specific body parts. In this case, obviously, we're focusing on arms. Now, you can therefore start to think about, well, what do I need to do with my training programming to make sure that I'm getting enough training stimulus into the muscles that I want to grow specifically in order to make the most amount of gains possible. Now, realistically speaking, if you are a beginner or maybe a lower level intermediate, then you don't need that much direct bicep and tricep work to actually get some progress. And by like beginner and intermediate, you're probably, when you think, well, I'm not a beginner, I'm not an intermediate, you probably think you're more advanced than you actually are. That's probably the harsh reality here. So realistically speaking, you probably, I'm just going to take a wild stab in the dark here, is you probably don't need that much direct arm work in order to build a decent set of arms. Because if you think about it, you're going to be doing a lot of rowing movements with your back, a lot of pull down movements that are really going to actually get some secondary volume going through your biceps, which will be making them grow. You'll also be doing for triceps, you'll probably be doing a lot of shoulder work. You'll be doing some pressing, so maybe some overhead pressing. You'll be doing some bench pressing, no doubt. All of these different movements are going to be working some tricep. So throughout your workout program already, you're probably picking up some arm volume already. And it could just be a case that actually maybe your body fat percentage is too high, and therefore that definition that you've actually built isn't yet on show. And it could be that maybe you don't necessarily need to overdo it with a load of bicep and tricep volume. Actually, it's just a case of maybe doing what you're doing already, getting that secondary volume in on those biceps and triceps, and then focus more on your nutrition, pull that body fat down, and hey presto, in a few months' time, you've got some badass arms on show. However, let's assume that you want to now put through some actual direct volume onto your specific your arms. You want to do some actual tricep exercises, you want to do some actual bicep exercises, and you want to really focus in on that aspect of your training to really make more gains than you've made already. Now, the first question you say, well, do I need a fucking arm day? Do I need to go bro split and build this arm day workout that's just going to have me doing curls and curls and curls and curls? The answer to that is probably not. There's going to be a very rare occasion where someone needs a full-on arm day. You might Vanity days, arm days, are something that I've done in the past, but I guess I never say never, but I will probably never do that again. I probably don't see the real need for me to do an arm specific day ever again. However, some people will love it. Cool, if that's you, go for it. That's not what I'm going to advise you to do on here. So the basic principles of building any muscle still applies to the arms, and no different whatsoever. You're going to have some basic principles of progressive overload. You're going to having to think about effort. So yes, you are going to have to put some fucking work in and train as hard as possible. You're going to have to think about technique. You're going to have to think about intent. You're going to have to think about exercise selection and set volume, reps, those sorts of things. All of those fundamentals still apply whether you're working biceps, triceps, or any other muscle. So when we talk about that, let's kind of strip that back and maybe talk about some exercises first. So what exercises could you be doing to actually make your biceps and triceps grow as much as possible? So discounting all of the secondary volume you're getting from other sort of pressing movements or other pulling movements, discounting that aside, what sort of exercises should you try and look at to improve your arms? Whether you want to be female, more defined, dude, you just want jacked. So you really want to work both your biceps and your triceps through various different ranges. So you're going to have what we call like fully lengthened position, fully shortened position. That's basically mean like, is it really stretched out or is it really sort of contracted? That's kind of what you're looking at there. So for biceps, let's take that for example. Classics would be your bicep curl, barbell bicep curl, easy bar curl, all these different sorts of curls. Now that's okay. Personally, I wouldn't advise anybody to do a barbell bicep curl. Now, I'm not saying that anybody shouldn't do a barbell bicep curl. If you really find it works for you, cool, go for it. If you find it's the most optimum exercise for you and building your biceps, cool, go for that. In my experience, most people get on better with slightly other exercises, but it is about nuancing it, changing it for you, making it fit what you need. However, I just don't think that a barbell bicep curl is the right one for most people. We won't go into that why that is right now. I'll maybe save that for another specific episode. Anyway, so I would be looking at more to do with, I would say, a dumbbell preacher curl is probably my favorite exercise for bicep curls and one of my go-to exercises if I am programming in some direct bicep work for clients. That's because it has a great exercise resistance profile. So basically that means that, you know, you're challenging your muscle in the right way throughout the entire rep. That's to do with the angle that you're presented with when you're on that bench. You can put a lot of control because if you do it single arm, and then you can do a lot of things like you can supinate your wrist, like turn it over. So you can basically get a deeper contraction, deeper burn, as Ron Burgundy would say, into that bicep and really kind of make that bicep work. So generally favor single arm exercises like dumbbell exercises. So single arm dumbbell preacher curl is an awesome exercise. Doing a single arm bicep curl is a good exercise, but always do it with one arm. Do all the reps with one arm, then flip over and do all the reps with the other arm. When you're doing biceps curls, often you'll see people alternate between left arm to right arm in the same set. I generally stick away from that because one of the principles that I teach at Iron Paradise Fitness is going to be about tension and tempo. So that's like the T of my lift principles of training. So you want to create this maximum amount of tension during that set. If you do one bicep curl and then stop and then do the other arm, this arm that you started with is getting a rest. Every rep is getting a rest. Whereas if you did one arm constantly throughout an entire set, so whether that's 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, whatever number of reps you're doing, if you keep the tension constant throughout those reps, that set on one specific arm, that to me is a better way of doing it. That's a better level of overload that you're putting on that muscle, and you're going to get a better response from that muscle. That would be the way that I would do it. So when you're doing single arm curls, either, you know, you would do it all in one arm. That's the way I would do it. Anyway, that's my personal view. So preacher curl, dumbbell curl, they're going to be the key things. To actually then think about the technique side of that is you want to just get rid of all momentum. So you'll see a lot of dudes in the gym, they'll be swinging it up and all that sort of stuff. You know, a lot of movement where the elbow comes really far forward. It's a lot of shoulder, front delt involved in that. And it's not a lot of bicep being involved. They're using a bit of ego to lift that up, and they're swinging it just because they want to put a lot of weight on a bar or a lot of weight on a dumbbell. But actually what we're interested in is building muscle, not building ego. So here we got to think about, you got to set your scapula back. So that's going to be pulling your shoulder blades back, keeping your elbows down by your side. And then you're literally just trying to keep that upper arm really, really still. And you're just pivoting at the elbow. That's kind of what you're doing. So whether you're in a preacher curl, whether you're doing a standing up dumbbell bicep curl, whatever it is that upper arm is what you're trying to keep very, very still. And you're actually then just moving at the elbow and pulling that bicep, that dumbbell up. And that's kind of what you're doing there. So really think about the intent, really think about the technique, really think about killing all momentum, because killing a momentum is going to be super, super important to make sure you maintain full amount of tension on that. And then you want to be picking, so you'll be saying like, okay, well, how many reps, how many sets and all that sort of shit. Now, really speaking, 6 to 12 sets per week is probably a good start point, because you're going to be getting this indirect volume from other exercises. And especially when you're just starting out, you might want to increase volume over time. Obviously, that would be a good thing. But I would start out with 6 to 12 sets per week. Now, that might be in the form of 2 exercises, 3 sets of those. That would give you obviously 6 sets. If you maybe want to do, if you're pushing into 3 exercises, 3 sets, that's quite a lot of exercises to be fitting into a workout. So you're drifting almost towards arm day at that point. It just depends how your training's set up. So that's how I would work it. There's 6 to 12 range, and then maybe increase that as you progress, or however you want to adjust it as you move forward. If you then switch over and look at triceps, great tricep exercise that I find are close grip bench press. That's awesome. You can lift a lot of weight with that. And you can still keep good technique with it. I would also look at tricep extension. So things like, like when you're doing a cable, like a rope pull down, but I always use 2 ropes so that you can get a longer length of rope, and you can basically don't have that issue where it's kind of hitting your torso as you go further down. You get a longer rope, you can get a lot more range of motion. I would also think about, one I love is the cable crossover. So you get a cable crossover, and basically just keep your upper body still and just move and extend your triceps. Basically, that's kind of what it is. If you can do that seated as well, it's even more awesome. Offers a bit more stability, a bit more bracing as well. But all the same things still apply. So you're looking at those basic exercise things of, you're locking that position that you start with in place. So whether it is a tricep extension, whether it is a close grip bench press, whatever position you're starting, you're locking that in place. You're thinking then about the intent. What muscle is it you're trying to work? And are you actually working that muscle throughout the entirety of the set? Or are you sacrificing form to maybe lift a shitload of weight, and that's therefore incorporating some shoulder or a bit more shoulder than you need, etc., etc., etc. Are you creating the amount of force? Are you keeping tension? Are you thinking about all of these different things as you progress through that particular set? So they would be the things that I would be thinking about. And again, from a tricep point of view, look at 6 to 12 as a start point. Then if you want to increase that number, you want to increase the number of exercises or set volume, then absolutely go do that. But you want to be thinking about progressive overload. So you're getting to a top end of a rep range, and then you're adding some more weight. Top end of a rep range, add some more weight. Keep doing that and keep doing that. Now, realistically, I really feel like there is no necessarily predefined rep range that's going to work well for arms versus any other body part. However, I just feel like in terms of what I see is that the heavier you try to go on a bicep exercise, especially, is form seems to disappear. So people that try to do like lift real heavy weight and do real heavy curls for say like 4 reps, 6 reps, generally form starts to degrade as they do that. Whereas if you drift slightly higher into 8 to 10, then you probably find the range where you're not sacrificing form to actually get the most out of that exercise. But you can just find the balance for you. Maybe for you, it's different exercises have different rep ranges because that's where you feel most comfortable. So find that position that works for you, find that number of reps, those number of sets that really work for you, and then go from there. So cool. That's kind of what I would look at on a training's perspective. So don't necessarily need a specific arm day. You're probably looking at 6 to 12 sets per week as a start point if you really want to include some direct arm work within your training. So that realistically is probably going to be a couple of exercises for 3 sets per week. And then you might do that as, for example, if you're doing a push day, you might stick 2 tricep exercises at the end of your push day. If you're doing a pull day, you might do 2 bicep exercises at the end of that workout. If you're doing shoulders, you might do 1 exercise at the end of that workout. If you're then doing some sort of chest, then you do 1 exercise at the end of that particular workout. Again, you can vary it like that, whatever works for you. And again, if you've got more time, maybe you increase the volume a little bit more. It's just about finding that sweet spot. That doesn't mean you're spending hours in the gym, doesn't mean that you extended your workouts exponentially way beyond what you can actually fit in, and it kind of works for you. Also, probably think about some supersets. So if you want to combine arm exercises together just for the convenience of time, cool, go do that as well. But when it comes down to it, pick some exercises that really work, go through that kind of list that I mentioned out there as well, and then just think about just fucking working hard, pushing through full ranges of motion, keeping the position locked in place, keeping the intent on the muscle that you're trying to work, making sure that you're generating as much force as possible, keeping as much tension as possible. And then it's just about applying progressive overload over the course of time. That will probably be the best solution to you to get the arms that you want. So the second part of this equation that we haven't talked about yet is all about nutrition. And on the nutrition side of things, okay, so we've got this training stimulus that's giving us the ability to adapt and change. The actual nutrition side of things, specifically protein, is actually making it happen. Now here, you really want to focus in on your number of protein servings per day. Now this is for someone who really is focusing in on building muscle. If your goal is to lose weight, and very much like building muscle is a very, very small part of your goal, then you probably don't need to go to this extent. It's probably a little bit of overkill for what you need and what you want. However, if you're really focused on, I want to build as much muscle as possible, I want to maximize my gains, I want to, I've got calories in place, I've got protein in place, I'm eating well, I'm eating nutritious food, I've got sleep in place. Now I want to take it to the next level. Cool. Now we want to just go into a little bit more of an advanced approach to protein. And that would be something we've covered on previous episodes of the podcast before. And that's about the advanced approach to building muscle in terms of protein and nutrition. So you really want to be looking at 4 to 6 servings of protein per day. And that's because we want to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. We want to prevent muscle protein breakdown and get a positive balance so that you are building muscle and making the most out of all of the effort that you've put in the gym. So you want to separate out your protein servings to 4 to 6 servings per day. Now, obviously that will come across breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe pre-bed protein, maybe a post-workout protein shake. So you see actually kind of 4 to 6 servings is actually quite easy to get in. And you just want to make sure then that your 1.8 to 2.2 grams per kilo of protein is spread out across those different 4 to 6 servings. Usually, if you're having a whey protein shake post-workout, then your requirements to have lots of protein is a little bit reduced because whey protein carries a lot of an amino acid called leucine, which is responsible for muscle protein synthesis, or a key part in that process. So you're going to get a lot of that. So you don't need very much. So your 25 grams-ish scoop of protein will be absolutely fine. When you go to your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, probably favor slightly more on the protein side. And then when you come to having something in the evening, again, that's probably the time where it's beneficial to have your biggest serving of protein. And if you want more information on that, then go listen to that advanced muscle building podcast that we've done a few months ago, I think it was. And that will give you all the information that you need to know. So to recap the whole thing, if you want to give people 2 tickets to the gun show, then you need to split your approach to building a badass set of arms into 2 sections. One is your training. You need to make sure you're giving yourself the right training stimulus. You need to make sure that you are progressing volume over time. You need to make sure you've got the right exercises in your program. You've got the right amount of effort, the right amount of intent. You're not cheating. You're not trying to just massage your own ego. Then you want to make sure that you've got your nutrition on point. So really specifically looking at protein, making sure you've got 4 to 6 servings of protein per day and spreading out your 1.8 to 2.2, roughly speaking, grams of protein per kilo throughout the day. If you do that, if you give it time, if you give it effort, then I guarantee you, you will build a badass set of arms. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the show. If you did, come visit me on Instagram as usual. Come let me know at iron_paradise_fitness. Drop me a message, say hi. I will gladly talk to you and respond back. And if you are interested in online coaching, maybe jumping on board with the Lean Life Method, my online coaching program, where I can program all this bicep volume in for you. I can sort that nutrition out for you so you build that badass set of arms without even having to think about it. Cool. I will drop a link in the comment section, the notes section of this particular episode, and you can click that to your heart's content. Read all about it, ask me a bunch of questions, and maybe, just maybe, you want to fill out an application form and get on board with the team. So cool. So all that's left for me to say right now is thanks for listening. Keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next one.